Nothing but truth. The ego's propaganda machine. The biggest lie is the most believable. Because the ego doesn't sell lies, it sells familiarity. And what is familiarity but repetition with amnesia? It says, "You've heard this before, so it must be true." That's the slogan of separation. That's how an entire dream world got built. Psychology calls it the illusion of truth effect. Repeat a false statement often enough, and it starts to feel true, not because it's been proven, but because it's been processed before. The mind mistakes recognition for revelation. It's not truth you remember, it's frequency you've confused for knowing. In the laboratory, it looks like this. Subjects read a mixture of true and false statements. When asked later to identify truth, they rate repeated statements higher, regardless of accuracy. The reason? The nervous system relaxes in familiarity. It takes less effort to believe than to think. This is the scaffolding of propaganda, but also of personality. Adolf Hitler's big lie principle didn't invent something new. It merely exposed what already governed the human psyche, the comfort of repetition. Make the falsehood too large to challenge, too constant to question, and too emotionally convenient to release. That's not politics, that's ego. Every grievance, every identity, every opinion is a slogan rehearsed until sacred. Each becomes a micro-propaganda campaign for a self that never existed. And you can hear it every day in the world's language. I can't. I'm only human. It's too late. That's just the way it is. These are not facts. They're jingles from the mind's old marketing department. The Course in Miracles uses the same mechanism, but in reverse. It says, repeat the idea often to yourself. Why? Because truth doesn't need convincing. It needs remembering. The ego repeated the lie until it felt natural. The Holy Spirit repeats the truth until it feels familiar again. Repetition isn't evil, it's neutral. Who uses it determines whether it imprisons or awakens. Think of it like walking 10,000 steps a day. At first, the body resists. Muscles ache, veins itch, discipline feels like friction. But repetition trains the system until the effort becomes effortless. You no longer walk, you are walked. Repetition reshapes the automatic. The question is only, who programmed it? The ego uses repetition to numb awareness. The spirit uses repetition to reawaken it. Both depend on consistency, but one leads to sleep, the other to remembrance. And this is the metaphysical paradox of the world's propaganda. The ego copies the divine principle of creation. It just replaces love with fear. It repeats its message until you mistake the echo for the voice. The illusion of truth isn't a glitch. It's the mind's reflection of its own divided allegiance. Every time you repeat a thought of judgment, guilt, or limitation, you vote for illusion. Every time you repeat a thought of innocence, unity, or love, you strengthen remembrance. It's not about the words, it's about the source. So yes, propaganda exists. But the ultimate propagandist is the ego itself, whispering its lie through every belief in separation. And the only counter-campaign is vigilance in truth. Repeat this idea often to yourself, not as defense but as declaration. What God created perfect cannot be made false by repetition. The ego says, keep saying the lie until you believe it. The spirit says, keep saying the truth until you remember it was never lost. Because repetition doesn't make something real, it only makes it remembered. And remembrance of truth is the only repetition that ends the need for all the rest. Portrait of a mind addicted to its own advertising. A salesman of suffering, pitching separation door to door, until the echo of the lie becomes the music of belief. But somewhere between the broadcast and the listener, a silence breaks through, a signal older than sound itself. And in that silence, the propaganda ends, not by argument, but by recognition. For the truth was never competing for airtime, it was simply waiting for the static to stop. Tonight's transmission, nothing but truth.